It's okay, I will give you more time.
Thank you. All right. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for introducing me and also my topic. So I'm coming from York University. I'm PhD student there, and today I want to talk about a piece of my PhD work. And the title that we have chosen for our presentation is as extracting parameters of micro-CT scanned open mesh tubular braided composite materials yarn using image processing techniques. Like composite materials have a long history in the human beings. It has been used for like many years. From the old years, it has been used as a mud brick for houses in order to increase the strength of the buildings and also lower the weight of the overall buildings to improve the capabilities of that building. Since that years till now, the application of composite materials has changed quite a lot. And now we have different types of composite materials. And what I'm working during my PhD is working on tubular braided composite materials that we can see two methods of making tubular braided composite in these videos. Basically, tubular braided composites consist of two types of yarns that are interwoven in different directions, one in clockwise, the other one in counterclockwise, and it can be manufactured around a mandrel. And the mandrel, as you can see in this video, it can have a very different cross-section, which is one of the advantages of the tubular braided composites. And tubular braided composites have very different applications in different industries. They can have application in medical industry, being used as for cardiac stent and the other medical application that we might have. Also, it has application in oil industry, car industry, for example, for EV in cars that nowadays is getting more than ever viral in the car industry. In the sport and also in marine and aerospace, they're all using this type of materials to use the advantages of these materials. But there is always a question for an industry that how they can improve the applications of this type of material, also how they can introduce new applications to new industries. So to answer my PhD thesis is to answer these questions, and the way that I've chosen is by developing a FEM simulation, trying to just simulate it in different conditions and answer and understand the behavior of these materials better. But today I'm talking about piece of my PhD, which is about segmentation of the yarns that I have. So when we are talking about tubular braided composites, we have three types of the patterns: diamond, regular, and Hercules. As you can see in diamond, the way that we define them is the pattern. For example, this blue yarn is over the red one. In the very next one, it goes under, and it repeats the pattern. So we call it 1 by 1 as well. In the regular, the pattern is 2 by 2, and in the Hercules, the pattern is 3 by 3. So that is one way that we define the patterns of the tubular braided composites. Also, when we want to just develop the model, geometrical model, we need to have mathematical equations, and for having the mathematical equations, we need to define some variables, geometrical variables. Here we can see a unit cell of a regular tubular braided composites, and I'm showing some of the parameters that has been defined for developing the geometrical models. Braid angle, which is the most important parameters in the tubular braided composites. Yarn width, yarn thickness, mandrel radius, total number of yards, and also undulation length are some of the other parameters that are used to develop the geometrical models. Another way to to categorize the tubular braided composites is by calling them open mesh and closed mesh. And by that we mean, for example, when the tubular braided composite is open mesh, there is a space between yarns easily. When we call them like closed mesh, there is no space between them, and the yarns are touching each other. And each of them have like different application. And one of the applications of like open mesh can be like a stance card that has like a medical application for humans. And this is like the focus of my presentation today, open mesh tubular braided composites. So developing like a geometrical model based on equations and the variables that I was just like talking about in the previous slide is one method for developing a simulation, but all of those like geometrical models are based on a lot of like assumptions. And they are like assuming, for example, that the yarn path are ideal, there's no like change or like a solid there. And because of that, it is adding some source of like errors to the model. So another way to just like sort of like minimize errors is using micro-CT tests. Micro-CT test is like a very similar to X-ray tests that we have in medical, for example, medical like the applications. And here again we have like a X-ray that is sending X-ray towards the test piece. In our case, the test piece is of course the tubular braided composites. And based on the density of the composite material that we have, we will get a 2D image out of the test piece. And then we will have like a rotation, then take another photo. So we will repeat it for the 180 degree. Then we will capture like a number of like images. Then we will import it to the software in order to get the 3D model and also the cross-sectional view that we want. So that will be like another method beside the geometrical model that we can have. And talking about like the geometrical models, there are like the sort of like the complicated like the equations that if you want to like generate the model, you need to just go through all of these equations. But what we have done is developing an like a program, MATLAB software. This program doesn't need any like a background for like knowing those like complicated equations. Instead, it's asking for the equations, like the parameters, that like the variables that I was just like talking about in a couple of like slides back. And also it asks you, for example, which pattern you want. Then it will show you the like a preview. Then you can just like have the model, import it to SolidWorks or any other like a CAD software. Then you can have the geometrical model that you want. And here are some of the results out of the TBC-Gen program that we have developed. As you can see, like this program is able to create both open mesh and also closed mesh tubular braided composites. It's able to just like create models with very different like the variables, and they can be used in like the other applications that we have, for example, FEM in my case. But today, as I was saying, that I'm trying to focus on the segmentation of these like these tubular braided composites, because it's sometimes important to analyze the yarn path and also extract some parameters that we have in the tubular braided composites. So what I'm trying to do, for example, here I'm showing a cross-sectional view of a tubular braided composite that I've generated using the program that I was talking about, TBC-Gen. And what I want to do is to segment the yarns one by one and extract the parameters as much as possible. Then I will use them to reconstruct the yarn path to see if it's working or not. And this is like an example, another example of a cross-sectional area of a geometrical model, again with a TBC-Gen. So with the geometrical model, or like any like a model, you might have different scenarios. With this one, the scenario is just like there is no yarn overlapping to each other. As you can see, that all of the yarns are like separated sort of from each other, which is a little bit like easier to segmenting these sort of like yarns. So I would just like get them, just like and extract the parameters that I want. And the parameters that I will extract are major diameter, minor diameter, orientation angle, center point, and also the boundary. The boundary, then by having the boundary, I have like a cross-section area as well. So when it's not overlapping, it's less complicated, and the algorithm can just like easily segment all of the yarns. But when like the yarns are overlapping, that's the time that it's getting a little bit like more complicated. And for example, for this case, the algorithm that I have, it will just like recognize these two yarns that are overlapping to each other as like a single one. And I need to have like an algorithm to just like split these two from each other. What I've done is that I have like a center point. The algorithm has already given me the center point. Then by considering the orientation, the angle, I've crossed a line crossing the center point. And after that, I will literally burn the image. Then it will give me two splitted yarn path, yarn cross section with like the two sets of different parameters that I have. And by repeating this like algorithm for all of the overlapping yarns that I have, I will come up with this cross section that all of the yarns are segmented. Then next step would be just connecting the dots, because I'm not just dealing with one image, instead it's like a stack of like images. So once I have segmented one, like all of the like yarns, all of the 48 center points, for example, of like a image 1, in the image 2, I need to find the corresponding center point, because the algorithm does not always start from the same point, and the order of the yarns changes all the time. For example, if like a yarn number 1 here, this is number in this like image, this is yarn number 1, but in the like the other image, the algorithm might consider like this yarn as number 1. So that was like the issue that I had, and in order to solve that part, I was like measuring the distance between each yarn compared to all of the center points in the next image, and the minimum distance that I got was the corresponding center point with that specific yarn that I was working on. Then I repeat the same algorithm for all of the 48 yarns, and it will show all of the corresponding yarn centers. And finally, by just plotting them, it will give me the yarn path that I initially had. So it shows that the algorithm is working and I got the same yarn path extracted. So for the next step, I'm trying to do the same algorithm with the microcity results. So far it was like the geometrical models based on TBC. So for that one, I have scanned open mesh tubular braided composites, and the material it was Kevlar, and the braid angle was 40. The radius of the mandrel was 10 millimeter, and the voltage and the resolution are also shown here. By doing that, these are the results that I got out of microcity. And as you can see, this is like the image, the actual the image that I got with my camera. And this is the result that I got from the microcity. And I was using the 3D slicer software. One the advantages of 3D slicer is that it has like a powerful module for segmenting the different materials. As you can see, for example, here, the mandrel is already segmented as like a brown color, and the yellow is the tubular braided composite that I was scanning. And simply by removing the mandrel, it will give me the 3D model that I need, that I can use for my analysis. And here, again, we have a different the scenarios. And for example, for these yarns, the algorithm has an easier job to do. So the yarns are already segmented. The only thing that they need to do is just to detect the boundaries, extract all of the parameters that we were talking before, and just report them. But we see that in some cases, the situation gets a little bit more complicated, similar to the geometrical model that we have. And there's cases that there are two yarns overlapping. Then I apply the same, the algorithm that I have before. I have defined a line crossing the center point, then burn the image. Then it will give me two separated yarns with the two sets of parameters that I have. And in conclusion, I would say that in this the presentation, I showed some result of the TBC-Gen program that we have developed that is able to generate different geometrical model. And there were like two scenarios that they were analyzed, single yarn and also the overlapping yarns. And the microcity test was done for on a like open mesh to like see how algorithm will work on that one. And also the microcity model were segmented. And the main like sort of like the goal of like my presentation might be like showing the potential of like this algorithm for segmenting. There's still like a lot of things needs to be done. There might be like different methods for like segmenting them, and but these are like the initial results for this section that might be like valuable for future. These are the contributions that I have so far, and I want to finish my presentation by showing like this like a figure that I took it in an airplane that I was in my way coming to the conference. It is in a like an airplane. It's showing the tubular braided composite in a cabin that they're using it to just like increase the strength of that. Yeah, I think it's like a sort of like beautiful as well. It's just like to have like a special pattern, which is nice. But I'm seeing like the application of the tubular braided composite. And finally, I want to thank you for listening to my presentation. Also, I want to thank my lab mates, my research group, and also all of the resources that have been supporting me financially for this research. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the presentation. It's funny because it brings back some memories of they were called aluminum foam-filled braided stainless steel tubes, and we used them as energy absorbers. So you'd collapse your braided tube, it would expand its diameter, we'd stuff it with aluminum foam, and then you'd put it under a tensile load, and then you'd crush the foam core, which was an energy dissipation mechanism, and then if you continue to pull it, then you would rupture the braid eventually. So one problem we had at that time was trying to develop final models of it. So I see your code there. What is it, the TBC-Gen or whatever?
Yeah.
Is that readily available? Is it open source?
It is. Yeah. In my paper, I've like put a link.
Okay.
In the yeah. You can just like go ahead and just download it.
So get the paper, get the link, and then we can obtain that and certainly reference your work.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And if you have like any question, you can just send me an email,
Okay.
and we can discuss more.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
No worries at all. My pleasure. Yes, please.
You talked about overlapping braids, and you talked about how you define the line that would separate them. How did you go about that process?
Okay, yeah, that's a very good question. So maybe here, I can like explain a little bit here. So when I'm like extracting parameters, one of the parameters is center point, and the other parameter is orientation. So the way that this algorithm is working for detecting the boundary is sort of fitting ellipse to the like the yarn that I have. Then the orientation would be the angle between like a horizontal axis and the major diameter of that ellipse. So I will use two parameters. One of them is center point. The other one is orientation angle. Then when I have like a overlapping situation, I already have this center point here. And imagine that I have like an ellipse here. So by like considering that angle and also this point, I can easily draw a line. And there's like another algorithm for burning the images. Once I burn it, I have like two separated like sections. So that's how I was working. Yeah, that's a good question. Thank you.
Other question? How do you choose braided?
Yeah, there was a question. What?
There's a question.
Yeah, sure.
Generation of like braided structures, your parametric equations. If you can take a look at
This one?
yeah, those ones. Yeah, this one. So I'm wondering, do you have like a parameter that follows you to like on that slide? I can see that each like counterclockwise strands, yarns, or like clockwise yarns, or following like a repetition like around the main axis of the braided structure. Okay. So let's say you generate one pattern,
Okay.
one yarn, then you like copy this pattern around the axis to generate the other yarns.
So maybe if I explain this, like the process that I'm like following, maybe I would answer your question. If not, just please let me know, then I can explain more. So how it works is that it gives me only one clockwise and another counterclockwise. Actually, it gives two of each because of like some reason. But I will import just like 2 of the yarn paths to the SolidWorks. After I add the cross section, I will just pattern it. So I will just, for example, add 2, then I will pattern it to like 24. Then it will give me 48.
The other question is that usually, like the braided structures, the way it is like performed, it is manufactured. I think the pattern is more of in the axis way, you know, of the braided structure.
Oh yeah.
So, have you planned a way of generating a braided structure that has a pattern through the axis of the braid?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, so that's like a sort of like another type of like tubular braided composite. We have like an axial like yarns as well, which is not the focus of like my job.
Okay.
I'm focusing on the like a 2D, like the braided composites. So I have like only 2 sets of yarns, clockwise and counterclockwise. That's it. But I can see, yeah, in the literature there are like different like types of like tubular braided composites that they have like a third yarns to increase like the strength in the like the length.
I know. I mean like the same type of braided structure, like clockwise and counterclockwise, so like 2 axis yarns, you know. But usually I think the pattern of like in the axis of the braided structure, you know?
Yeah, I think the patterns are same. The only difference is that they have like a third like the yarns in the X, like this direction would be like the.
This is called an air-cooled braid, but in that case, I think we are speaking like a regular braid. No, air-cooled. Sorry, I'm mistaken.
That's right. Yeah, I think the equation might be like very similar. I'm assuming there might be like a sort of like some addition for that, so there would be like more space in the cross section, so there would be enough space for the third yarns. Yeah.
Thanks.
No worries. Thank you for the question. Yeah, question.
Is it possible to use this tool to calculate mechanical properties?
So this like the software does not calculate the properties itself. It just like gives the geometry. But like another like the part of my work was developing FEM. So by that, then we could just like to have a measure the parameters that we wanted. Maybe if I could just like show you one of the hidden slides, for example. Where is it? So, yeah, this one. So this, you can see. This was like the algorithm that I have. For example, I have like TBC-Gen model here. Then I would just import to SolidWorks. Then I was using COMSOL. Then I would add the material properties, boundary condition, mesh, like the analysis and stuff. Then I would just like get the output that I needed. And there are like some more results of that. The results were published in a separate journal paper. But these are, for example, some of the results that I got. For example, here I had like this model was generated using the TBC-Gen. Then here I was studying the effect of braid angle on the displacement. So I was like measuring displacement with different braid angles while the other geometrical parameters were like same. So after like studying this is the curve that I got, and it shows that as the braid angle is increasing, we see like a more sort of like displacement here. This is like another part of study for measuring the pattern of the TBCs on like different patterns but similar geometrical model. And here are the results out of that. And this is another result that I was like comparing the FEM result based on the model that I generated with TBC-Gen. I was comparing with experimental result and another analytical result. That again, it was like showing like a good results there.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
And other question? Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Very exciting presentation. Then see you in the gala.